In this video, I will show you how I built a fully automated news website. You will learn step by step how to set up and design a website and how you can run research, writing and image generation on autopilot. And we will use the system to publish local news and articles for a little island in the middle of nowhere called Malta. The first thing we have to do is to find a proper name for our website, and in most cases I will simply go to ChatGPT and ask to generate a list of 100 simple, short, unique and easy to pronounce brand names for a local news website based in Malta. And once you run this prompt, it will generate a huge list of ideas, and you can go through this list, pick your favorite names and check if they are available as domain and also on social media. So as you can see, some of these names look pretty promising, but in my case, I already have a name in mind. So I would go with the name Malta Road. So our next step is to actually buy this domain. In most cases, I simply buy domains on Namecheap. I had pretty good experiences here and the domains are quite cheap. So let's search for Malta Road and we will go for the .com domain. And you can see you can purchase it already for about $10 US. So let's go to the checkout. Then I have to enter my payment details quickly. Okay, so now we own the domain, and in the next step we have to find a place where we actually host our website. I go with SiteGround. I know it's not the cheapest option, but I had pretty good experiences with SiteGround in the past. So this is why I also choose it for this project. And I will simply log into an existing account. So now we have to add a new website and we choose existing domain, enter our domain name, click on continue. And here we choose start a new website. I will choose WordPress and once again continue. Some of you might wonder why I purchased my domain on Namecheap and host my website on SiteGround and not have everything in one place. Is simply because let's say I host my website and also my domain on SiteGround, okay? And then at some point the site gets bigger and I want to migrate to a new service provider like DigitalOcean or whatever. Then it's much harder to actually get your domain out of SiteGround. So this is why in most cases I simply purchase my domain on Namecheap and stay independent with the domain. And if I decide to change my hosting service, I can very easy migrate. So now we have to point the domain from Namecheap to SiteGround. So let's copy these. So then we go on Namecheap, select our domain, and now you have to go to name servers, custom DNS, and add the two name servers from SiteGround. Confirm everything. And this might take a few minutes until this gets active. After about 10 to 20 minutes, we can finally reach our new website. And the first thing I usually do is I go here to settings and change the title of the website. So in our case, it's Malta Roads. And then I enter a tagline. And for a good tagline, you can simply go again to ChatGPT and ask to generate 5 SEO optimized taglines for a local news website based in Malta. So Malta's trusted source for local news, weather and events. Stay informed with the latest news in Malta, breaking news and stories that matter. I would go for this, I think. Malta's trusted source for local news, weather and events. In the next step, I will also install a page builder, which will allow us to create the design of our website. And in this example, I will go for Bricks Builder, which is really an amazing page builder. And even if you have complex, very big website, it still provides amazing performance. And Bricks is not free, so you have to pay for it. I think it's currently priced at around $80 to $90. But you can also use any free alternative like Elementor, for example, or Divi To make it a little bit easier to actually build your website, I recommend you two things. The first one is that you choose matching categories for your blog articles, and also you should generate a few example posts. So let's start with the categories. For this, you simply go to posts and then we choose categories. And to find a few matching categories, I will simply go back to ChatGPT, and then you can say something like, generate a comprehensive list of single word blog post categories for a news website. And here, of course, you should not choose all of these categories. You should pick the categories that actually match to your website. On top of that, I will also take a look at already existing websites on this topic and try to mix and match what actually would work for my website. Okay, so after a few minutes of research, I ended up with the following categories, which are politics, business, economy, finance, technology, science, environment, education, media, culture, sports, lifestyle, travel, and food. So now all you have to do is to add them step by step to your WordPress website. So you simply add them like this, copy one by one, and then click on add category. And once you added all your categories to your website, you should also add a few example posts. Also, in this case, I will simply use ChatGPT and ask to generate an example blog post for a local news website based in Malta. And these will be on a random topic, but this actually doesn't matter. It will just allow us to make it easier to build our website because we have a few examples we can build on. We will see how the design looks on these examples. So don't worry if these are not the perfect blog posts, okay? So you simply go over here. Once the article is generated, then you select add new post. Then we add the title, and then we simply copy this text here. Okay. We hit publish, and then you can see the blog post is online. And we will repeat this step a few times until we end up with about 3 to 5 example blog posts, and then we can continue with the next steps. As you can see, now we have a few example articles on our website. On top of that, I also added a few images that you can find if you go on unsplash.com. And all of this will allow us to build our website much easier because we have a few examples so we can see how our design will interact with the content. So our next step is to actually build our website. And to come up with a first idea how your website could look like, I do two things. So first of all, I use AI to brainstorm designs, and then I also look at existing designs of other websites. So in this case, we will start with V0, which is very similar to ChatGPT, but it's specialized on building designs and prototypes for websites and apps. And you can start with a very basic prompt. For example, generate a modern design for a local news website based in Malta. And once you run this prompt, it might take a while, but we end up with a very nice design that we can use as a foundation for our website. As you can see, after just a few minutes, we ended up with an amazing first version of our website. And we have a header here with the different categories of our website, some search functionality, and what I really like, some subscribe button, which can lead to a premium plan or also to a newsletter. Then we have an overview of the weather and the date. And right below, we have our top story and some local news in a sidebar. And right below, also again, something to subscribe to a newsletter. Then further down, we have more recent stories and an overview of some categories we offer. So I would say, let's try to recreate this design here for our main landing page. And we go back to WordPress and create a new page. And for now, let's just call it home. And then we select Edit with Bricks, which is our page builder. And we get started by adding a new section. And to achieve this design here, that we have the first or the most recent article in a full width view, and below we have a few more articles in this grid view, we need basically two containers. So we already have one container. Let's add another one. And then we have to integrate a query loop, which will basically display our posts to this page. So we can select what types of posts we want to display in which way. Okay, so let's select a block here for our query loop. And then here in the content section, you have to select query loop. And let's define the query. So for type, we select post. Post type is also posts. And then we order the whole thing by publish date. And because we only want to display in the top section one featured post, we select here just one post per page. And now we will place inside this block all the elements we want to display for this article. So we need an image, a title, and a text preview. Okay. And now we have to select for the different elements that it actually displays data of a post. So for the image, let's select here dynamic data, and then you search for featured image. And as you can see, now we have the image of our most recent post. And this is quite big, so let's adjust the image. First, we select object fit and select cover. Next, we go to style. And we select the width to 100%, the min width also, and the max width also. And because this is a little bit too big, we limit the height to a maximum of, I would say, maybe 400 or even 500 pixels. As you can see, this looks much better and much more like our example. Let's also get the actual title of our article. So here we delete the example, and then we choose dynamic data with this little bold icon. Now you search for post title. And now we also want to have some preview of the text. So we delete this example here, and also here you have this little bold icon for dynamic data. And here you select post excerpt. Okay, which will display a little preview of the text. Okay, and now we will also add a few more recent articles below in this grid view. For this reason, we added the second container. Okay, and here we do almost the same. So we just add another block. We do a query loop again, and then we select post as our type. Also here we order the whole thing by date, and we display, I would say 6, okay, that we have 6 posts here below the big one. And what's important here that you select for offset the value 1, because otherwise it would display this first post again. So we have offset of 1 post, and it will start with the second post in this second section here. And also here we have now to add the different elements of our query loop, which is an image. Then you want to have the title and also a text preview. And here we do almost the same like we did for the section before. So we select a featured image, and then for the heading, we choose the post title, and we select the text preview. So, and to now get this grid view here, we have to go to the container and actually display it as a grid. So we go to display, and instead of flex, we choose grid, and let's say as gap between the elements, I would go for 25 pixels. And here you simply enter, depending on how many rows and columns you want to have, 1 FR for one column, and then 1 FR again for a second column. I would say we do 3 columns and we copy the same for the rows. And if we now preview this design, you can see the layout comes already quite close to what we want to achieve. We just have to adjust the design a little bit. So let's start with these outlines here and these round corners. So for this, you basically go to your blog and we style it up a little bit. First, let's add some border outline. So like this, and then we select style solid and add some gray color. And then for the border radius, which will make our edges here round, we add 10. And then as you can see that here is a little bit space between the edges and the title and the text. To achieve this, we simply add another block within our block. So let's add a new block. And now we will place our title and our text preview inside this block and add some padding to this block. So let's say 25, like this. Okay, and finally, we have to make the top corners of our image also round. So we go here, select border again for the image, and then at the top, select 10, and top right, we also select 10. So let's save the whole thing. Then if you preview it, you see it looks much more like our example. And now I think you have a quite good understanding how you can recreate a website design based on your initial idea. But because this video should not be considered as design tutorial and also this whole process might take a while, I will now speed up everything and we talk right after I finish the whole website design. After a few hours, I'm finally done with the entire website design. And as you can see, we have a nice and clean header here with our logo at the top, the different categories we offer on the website, some search feature to search for specific articles. And we also have a subscribe button. And if you hit this one, you can basically sign up for the newsletter of this website. And now let's have a look at the main landing page. So we start here with the most recent news articles, and then I also added again a section to subscribe to our newsletter. And further below you have something like an overview of the featured categories, and then we have for each category the most recent articles. Okay, and then I also created an archive view. So let's say we go into a specific category, let's choose politics. You get an overview of all the articles that fall into this category. And also if we choose a specific article, we have a custom design now. So we have a nice image here and the actual content. And then on the right side, we also have a little sidebar with the table of contents, the latest news, and also again, a section to subscribe to the newsletter. And you might have recognized that I started to replace all our examples with actual news articles. And in the next step, I will show you how you can research and write these articles and even generate these amazing images here fully automated. So to actually generate our news articles fully automated, we will use the following workflow in make.com. But of course, you can also use any other automation tool like, for example, N8N or Zapier and try to rebuild this workflow here. So let's have a closer look at the different steps of this automation. It basically starts with getting the topic for our news article from a spreadsheet. And based on this topic, it will do a comprehensive research with all the relevant facts and information we need to write our news article. And after that, it will actually write the entire news article based on this research report. Then we have a few more steps like creating a proper headline for our article, generating a meta description, and then we also have a few steps to actually generate these amazing images and also optimize them. And in the last few steps, we will upload all our images, and then finally we bring all the pieces together and publish our entire article to our website. So I would say let's rebuild this entire automation step by step together. And as always, you can find in the video description below a document with all the prompts we use in this video, and you can simply copy and paste them to the different building blocks of this automation. The first thing we have to do is to go to Google Drive, and here you can choose any folder you want. Then we have to create a brand new Google spreadsheet. So let's create one, and then we can simply call it topic database. And the spreadsheet doesn't have to look fancy, or you don't have to follow any specific formatting. In fact, we can get rid of all these other columns here. So we just need one single column. And then let's resize this column to, let's say, 500 pixels. So it's easier to read the different topics. And then I will also adjust the height of the different rows. And now we just have to add a few topics for news articles to our database. And I recommend you to research the topics for your news articles manually and add them to the spreadsheet. Because when I tried to automate exactly this step, I always faced the same issue. Because at some point the AI will add topics that you already have in your database, even if you try to specify not to include the existing topics in your research. And of course, you don't want to have a topic twice on your website, so you don't want any duplicate content to be published on your website. But to make this topic research as easy as possible for you, the first prompt you find in our document is the following one, which will research the latest local news based on a specific location. So let's start by copying this prompt, and then we go over to Perplexity. Here we just paste the prompt, and then you have to replace the location variable with the location where you want to publish news. So in my case, it's Malta. And let's run this prompt. And after a few seconds, you will get the 10 most important trending local news of today with a topic and also a little summary. And let's go through all these topics, and then you choose the topics that you want to add to your database. And if you select one of these topics, I highly recommend you to copy the entire section to your database. That means the title, but also the summary below. The reason for that is that some topics might only be about specific updates or developments in a topic. And you don't want to lead the research process into a wrong direction or confuse the AI. So for this reason, you copy the entire thing and paste it into your database. So let's go through the entire list and choose the best topics and bring them step by step to our database. As you can see, now we have 4 topics that are relevant and also not covered on our website yet. And in the next step, we can actually bring these topics to our automation. To get started, you simply have to go to your make.com dashboard, and in the top right corner, you have to click on Create a new scenario. And here we can select all the different building blocks for our automation. And we get started with our database. So the first module we select is Google Sheets. And here you select Watch New Rows. So now we have to find the spreadsheet that we have created previously. So you click here to choose File, and now you have to navigate to the folder where you have added your spreadsheet. So in my case, it's Malta Roads, then the folder Automation, and the spreadsheet is called Topic Database. And now you have to select a sheet name. In our case, there's only one sheet, which is Sheet 1, and our table does not contain any headers. And now the limit I set to 1. Let's save it, and in this step I select all to work with all the topics in our spreadsheet. Let's save this, and now we can already continue with the next module. To keep a clear overview over your entire automation, especially if it gets a little bit complex or if you come back at a later point, I recommend you to name your modules properly. So let's make a right click here and select Rename, and then we name it Topic Database. Let's save it, and now we can continue with the next module. So our next module will do the actual research. That means it will take the topic from our database and then create a comprehensive report with all the relevant facts and information we need to actually write the article. And for this reason, we will choose Perplexity AI and then the action Create a Chat Compilation. And here we go with the model Sonar. You can also go for Sonar Pro, but I had pretty good results with Sonar and it's much cheaper. So I will just choose Sonar for now. And then in the section Messages, you click on Add Item. And as role, we will go for User. And now in the Content section, we have to add our next prompt. So we go to the document, and as you can see, we have this research report prompt. So we copy the whole thing and then we add it to the content section. And now as you can see in the prompt, it describes how the research report should look like and how it should perform the research. But you can also see this variable here. So this is a topic variable, and we need to replace this with the topic from our database. So the next step is to find this variable. It's here. And now we have to choose the column A. Because as you can see in our database, in column A, we have all the topics. So we choose column A and add it right here. Then we click on Save. Now we can test the whole thing. We just run it. And as you can see, it pulls the first topic from our database. And now Perplexity is performing the research. And in a few seconds, we can take a look at the results. And if we now click here and choose Choices, and then Message, Content, you can see this is the actual research report based on our topic, which includes all the information we need to write the article. And you see this is pretty comprehensive, and it should really cover all the facts to make the final article as accurate as possible. And now we can continue with the next part, which will actually write our article. So we choose another module and we go for ChatGPT in this case. And here you can choose the action Create a Compilation. And now we have to go back to our document and choose the news article writing prompt. And when it comes to all these prompts that you can find in this document, of course you can always customize them to your own ideas. So you don't have to use a writing style similar to the New York Times, for example. And I just want to give you all these prompts as starting point, and you should always adjust them to your own website and idea. So as you can see, here we have to provide two variables. The first one is the topic, which we get from our database, and the second one we get from our second module, which is the research report, which will provide all the information or more information about the topic. So let's copy in the entire prompt, and then we go back to make. And as model, I usually go for ChatGPT 4.0, the latest version. And the maximum tokens I usually set to 5,000, which is enough for most articles, right? So then we add a new message. The role is user again. Now we have to add our prompt in the text content field. So now we have to replace the variables again. So let's start with the topic. Let's delete this one. Then here you choose again column A. So same like in the research report. And here we have to add the actual research report. So you go to this module, which is perplexity, and then you go to choices, message, and then content. So let's place this here. And that's it. So now we have the foundation to actually write the article. And let's also rename this module and we call it article writing. Okay. And why this is so important, I can show you right away. So let's take a look at the final automation workflow. As you can see, we will have multiple modules that are based on ChatGPT. And if we later put together our final building blocks to publish the article, and you want to refer to a specific module, you see all of them pretty much look the same. But if you name them properly, so for example here meta description or image prompt, it's much easier to select the right one. Our next module will create the headline or the main title of our news article. And also in this case, we will use ChatGPT again in combination with our next prompt. So what you can do in this case is you right click on the existing ChatGPT model and then you choose clone, which will give you a new module with the same settings. And let's rename it to headline. Now we have to go back to our document and select the next prompt, which is the article headline prompt. Okay, and as you can see, this will create a engaging headline based on our final article. So we have to add the output of the last module here. So let's copy the entire thing, go back to make, and here you can set the maximum tokens to 250, which is enough for a headline. So now we go to the text content, add the entire prompt, and now we have to replace our variable. So we delete this one, and then we choose from the last module, which is article writing, choices, message, and then content, which will give us the entire generated or previously generated article. And based on this, it will generate us the headline for the article. So let's save this. And now we can already continue with the next one. And also this one will be another module with ChatGPT. So we right click again and choose clone. And this time it will generate the meta description. So let's rename it and call it meta description. So, and once again, we go back to our document and we continue with the next prompt. And also here, it will simply generate a proper meta description based on our entire news article. So we copy everything, we go over here, and now you can set the maximum tokens to something like 1000. Also here, we delete the existing content and add our new prompts. And here it's important to once again replace the variable with the article writing output. So we delete the thing, and here again we choose article writing, choices, message, and then content. And now we have already all the building blocks we need to write our article. That means we provide the topic, we perform the research, we write the content, we generate a headline, and we also generate a meta description. In the next part, we will focus on generating the featured image of our article. That means the main image that you see in the preview or at the top of the article. And to generate this image, we have to add 4 more steps to our automation, which sounds much more complicated than it actually is. So for our next part, we need something that describes how our image should look like. And also here, we simply clone another ChatGPT module and we rename it to something like image prompt. Okay, and now we can go back to our prompt library. And as you can see, the next prompt will generate a featured image. And as I said, also here you should adjust the style, how the image should look like, which is defined here, to your own website. So let's copy the entire thing and let's bring it to our next module. So we replace the existing content, and also here we have to provide the entire article. So we go back to the article writing module, select choices, message, and content. Next, we have to choose a module that actually generates our image. So also in this case, we choose OpenAI, but this time as action, we select generate an image. And here we don't have to provide much. We just choose the model, which in this case is GPT Image 1, which is the best image generation model OpenAI offers. And as prompt, we have to provide the content of our last module, which is image prompt. Then we choose choices, message, and then content. So this will basically add the image generation prompt or the description how the image should look like to the image generation module. And we save it, and that's it. The next 2 elements we have to add are simply to optimize your image. Because if you use this image generation, the image will be quite large, which can impact the performance of your website. For this reason, I recommend you to convert your image to a JPEG format and then also to resize it to a maximum of 1000 pixels. And to do this, you simply add the next module, which is image. And the first one is convert a format. And here you simply choose OpenAI image generation and the output format is JPEG. That's all you have to do. And then we can already add the next module, which is once again image. And this time we choose resize. And here choose the last module, which is image convert a format. And then you set the maximum width to 1000 pixels. And now we have all the elements we need to generate and also optimize our image. In the next step, we have to bring our image to our website. So we add another module, and in this case, we choose WordPress. And here you have to search for create a media item. And this time it's a little bit different. We don't choose any of the previous modules. We choose map this time, because this will allow us to rename our file name. And this is quite important for SEO and will improve our ranking, or it makes it much easier to find our images in Google based on the topic of our article. For the first field, which is data, we don't have to adjust anything. So we can just keep the data output of our previous module here. But for the file name, we have to build a little formula. And this looks a little bit complicated, I know, but I simply didn't find any other workaround that allows you to generate a file name based on your article title. And to do this, we go to the top and select this little A here, which will allow us to generate a formula. And then the first block we choose is replace. Now we have to go inside this replace block and choose encode URL. And inside this encode URL block, we have to place our headline, so the title of the article. So we go back to the star here and then we choose our module for the headline. We select choices, message, and then content. Now what you have to do at this position here, we add a percentage symbol, and then after that, at this position, we have to add a dash symbol. And at the end, you simply add .jpg. Next, for the title, we can once again choose our headline as image title. So we go back to headline and then we add the content here. And now we have all the elements to properly name our featured image. So we save the module and we continue with the next one. And now we already reached the last part of our automation, where we put all the pieces we have together. That means our article text, our headline, our meta description, and also our image. That means we add another module. Once again, we select WordPress, but this time we choose create a post. And here we have to start with the title, which is our headline. So we go over here and scroll down to our headline module. Here, once again, you choose choices, message, and content. Now you have to provide the content, which is the actual text of the article. So we go to the module article writing, the very first one, and then we choose choices, message, and content. Then you have to choose a type for the post. And here it's very simple, you just choose posts. And then we go further down. Category, in this case, I will choose breaking. As author, I will choose this one. And now we have to provide the image or the featured image for our article. And here we have to provide a number, so a featured media ID. And this one you can simply find in the last module where we uploaded our image to WordPress. And then you have to select right at the top, media item ID. And now there's just one last element missing, which is our meta description. And to add this one, it's a little bit more tricky. You first have to install a plugin called Rank Math SEO, which is completely free. And then you have the option to add your meta description with your make automation. And to do this, you go to the bottom here and choose show advanced settings. Okay, then we get a few more settings. And in this section, additional fields, you add item, and then the name is underscore rank underscore math underscore description. Okay, and then as value, we have to add our meta description. So we scroll again to the meta description module, choose choices, message, and then content. Now we have all the elements we need to actually publish our article. So as status, we can choose publish. I always recommend you to choose draft first and then review your article. But in this example, we immediately will publish the article. So let's save this. And now we have all the elements we need to generate our news articles fully automated. From research to writing to image generation to finally publish our article on our website. And I think the last step is to do a little test run. So let's start our automation. And once our automation is completed, we can go to our website and we will find an amazing, well-researched news article with a stunning image based on our provided topic. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider to like and comment below. And if you want to see how I continue to build and grow this project, then please subscribe to the channel. And that's it for now. I wish you an amazing day.